welcome to New Life Ranch. Today we are at Flint Creek and we're going to be studying some of the wildlife here. My name is MC.
And I'm Kiara.
And we are a part of the adventure education team here at New Life Ranch, and teaching us about our wildlife today is Ms. Bethany.
Thanks guys, I'm so excited to be here today with you all. And today is one of my favorite activities that we do with adventure education at New Life Ranch. We are going to be studying the water. We call it water study. And mainly what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to catch as much creatures under the creek as we can that determines how healthy or unhealthy our creek is. So let's get started. All right, the tools we're going to use for our water study activity are a few nets that we're going to catch our specimens. So we got a single personal hand net, and this one's pretty simple to use. And then we also have a saying net or a team net, and I'll show you that in just a second. So this guy, really simple. You gotta watch the flow of the water, and you just kind of stick it under the water. And then the creatures we're trying to catch are under the rocks, and so we need to take our foot and dig, and you'll see kind of like a murky color. That's good. That means there's creatures under there trying to catch. We might have caught some. Oh, I see one. So we caught a few. So we got a, kind of looks like a little roly-poly right here. It's called a scud, but we'll look at more how to identify later. So we got this little guy, and and this little, it's hard to tell outside the water, potentially a caddisfly. But this little net, you can catch a few things, but the bigger net, so we're gonna catch a lot more things. So this is if you have just one person, you can use a personal net. All right, and I'm gonna need a team for our team net. So MC is gonna hold our net kind of like angled. You can kind of hold these pieces, yeah. And what we want to do, since the net comes up from the current, we want to put rocks down, and it helps because if you scrape off the rocks, some creatures are living on top of them. Ooh, it's a fast current right here. And some heavy rocks. There we go. So once we kind of have a good base, then we start doing kind of a little dance. We want to scrape with our feet. You'll see that same murky color because lots of creatures are kind of latching on to the rocks, kind of stir it up to kind of disorient them a bit. We kind of can use our hands too, kind of scrape.
It looks like we're catching lots of stuff.
Yeah.
See a crawdad.
Oh yeah. All right. And it depends on how long you want to do it, but it looks like we got some good catches. So once the time is right, then you pick up each side and make sure they don't swim on out. And then we bring it to shore. And it's really helpful when it's in the sun to see if the creatures are moving. I already see a lot of creatures moving. This Kiara has a crawdad. So I have two types of mayflies on my hand. So this guy, one of them looks like a torpedo a little bit. And then one, so they kind of swim a little bit better. This guy latches onto rocks because he's kind of suctions. So they're just different types.
So I have a water penny and a stonefly larva, and it looks like, so there's the water penny, the stonefly larva, and this looks like a mayfly larva.
Another cool trick is if you have big rocks that are under murky water, you can kind of look at them, see if there's any other life latched onto them too. Like a tiny little caddisfly. Really difficult to see, but you can kind of see something moving. They like to hang out on the rocks because the water kind of protects them. They have a very similar color to the rocks so they can blend in. You can just see that little guy. So now we're gonna look at all the creatures that we caught. And if you would like to follow along, we have this key available for you to decipher what creatures we caught today in our group. let's take a look. In this tray, we use ice cube trays because our creatures are pretty small. We have a lot of variety. It's like we have a big crowded space. So using the key, we kind of ask questions about, so does this have a shell or no shell?
It looks as though it has no shell.
No shell. Very good. And then you look at its legs. So kind of right now, it's hard to see all of its legs. It's also, this one might be a little bit easier by their tails as well. So if you look closely, how many tails, they're kind of together. And how many tails does this guy look like it has?
2 or 3?
Yeah, it looks like potentially 2, probably 3. And even if you look at these other ones swimming, they kind of fan out when they're in the water. So this looks like it has 3
tails.
So 3 tails. So
3 tails.
yeah, and mayflies usually, oh, I just told you.
Is it a mayfly or a damselfly?
It's a mayfly!
Oh, mayfly!
And these usually have legs similar to insects, so because they're an insect. It's actually a mayfly larva. So it's not a fly yet, but it will be. They are born, they were laid in the water, they hatch into a larva, and then they'll slowly grow, shedding their exoskeleton until they're big enough, and then they develop wings and they fly away off of the shore. So we found one type of mayfly. We actually have a few types in our creek that I've seen. So this guy's another. We can kind of walk through the key, but this one, oh, it's a tricky one. So this one, it's hard to see the tails right now, but if you see in the water, there's other ones that fans out to 3, and you can kind of see the legs a little bit better. But this one's a little flatter, and they like to suction kind of to the rocks and hide under the rocks that way. So this is another type of mayfly that we found in our creek. All right, a different type of larva. So if you walk through, this one might be a little difficult to hold. So Kiara, what do you think this one?
Well, he doesn't have a shell, but he does have legs. 3 pairs of legs.
Yes.
And he's got 2 tails.
Yeah.
Kinda looks similar to the mayfly down here.
It's a type of mayfly that has 2 tails, so it's tricky.
But I think he looks more like our stonefly here.
Yeah, and that picture's a little bit difficult because it's not in color. But stoneflies, I kind of like to remember them by their backs. Their backs are kind of speckled, at least this type of stonefly. And so that's how I remember like a stone back. Stonefly, stony back. They also kind of look like cockroaches a little bit too in how they walk. This is one of the biggest stoneflies I've seen. Stonefly larvae. There's a lot in this little bucket, and we've kind of sorted them. Just a whole bunch of them. So we found that one. This one is another cool, kind of creepy creature that you'll find in our creek. What do you guys think this is?
Let's see. So it doesn't look like it has a shell. It does have a lot of legs. Can you tell how many it has? So 3 pairs of legs, and then no obvious tail. So is it a Dobson fly larva?
Yes. Yeah, so these are called Dobson fly larvae because they turn into like gigantic flies, keep kind of the same head, but they're also called hellgrammites as larvae as well. These guys kind of swim similar to a crawdad. They kind of whip backwards to kind of hide under rocks. They look kind of prehistoric in how they walk. These guys I've seen like double than this one, pretty fat and long. This one's a pretty small one that I've seen. What else we got in here?
So you've talked about the crawdads.
Oh yeah, yes. So these are probably the easiest to identify because a lot of people have probably seen them. And they look like tiny lobsters. From our key, you can see it has more of a shell.
We have several sizes. We have this larger one. Do you want it to go on you?
Oh, you can hold it, yeah.
And then we have
Ooh,
this
this baby.
really small one.
Little baby one.
So they do kind of have a shell.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider it like a snail shell. Or
Okay.
It's more of an exoskeleton.
Just a really tough exoskeleton. So no shell. How many legs does it have? Pairs of legs. Looks like a lot.
5 pairs?
Mhm.
That makes more than 10. Oh, look, there he is.
There he is, crawdad.
Crayfish or
crayfish.
crawdad?
Like a baby lobster.
Yeah. And I learned that these creatures, a lot about these creatures that are awesome, how they eat. So a lot of them they eat like plant matter or algae, but there's different types of them that are like scrape off, smooth the rocks. Some of the creatures eat to gather like pieces of plant matter or debris on the bottom of the creek, and then others kind of cut and kind of like, I imagine like a crawdad kind of just like, they're more of a gatherer. There's other ones that kind of cut up their food and eat them. So it's really interesting the flow of how they eat. And then there was one more that we found that was cool, I thought. These guys. Yeah. They just all clump together, don't they? So we can look at. So what about these guys on our sheet? They look like they have a shell, but it's not like it's not very hard, so it's more of a exoskeleton.
So no shell.
No shell.
Can you tell if it has legs?
Look under it.
It's really small legs.
Yeah, kind of hard to tell.
So he does have legs.
Mm-hmm.
He or she. Would you say it's closer to 3 pairs or closer to more than that?
I think it's closer to 3 because I see like obvious.
Okay, and then no obvious tail.
Yeah.
So it looks like a water penny.
Yeah. Yeah, and these will turn eventually into a type of beetle. The water pennies. But these are another ones that suction to rocks and they just kind of scrape off and eat as they're moving around. So I think this one has another one on it.
Those are definitely the kind that if you're not looking very carefully, you definitely miss them. They
Yeah.
look kind of like rocks.
So they kind of move really slow. So we've just looked at a lot of creatures. We haven't talked about kind of what they're called. And so we call these guys MacroInvertebrates. Do you guys know why we call these MacroInvertebrates? Any ideas?
I don't know. Do you?
Reminds me of mac and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese. Okay, that's a term. If you think of macro as opposite to micro, so macro is something that we can see with our plain eye. So all these are small, but they're not so small that we can't see them, as opposed to through a microscope. And then invertebrate. Any ideas on invertebrate?
Like close to vertebrae.
Yes, they are invertebrates, so they don't have backbones. They have exoskeletons, kind of more of an outward backbone than an inward bones. So yeah, that's kind of what they're classified as a whole as. And the cool thing about macroinvertebrates, they're very important for many reasons. But one reason for humans, they're bioindicators. Do you have an idea of what bioindicators means? Or anyone at home, you guys can guess too.
So does bio have something to do with life?
Mm-hmm.
Indicator, meaning indicating the life of the creek?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they help researchers and just people that are trying to assess the health of all of our waterways. These guys are a biological way that we can test the health of our creek based off of the class of creatures we find. So the ones that we were looking at, the mayflies, the stoneflies, The hellgrammites, they are all in class 1. So that means they are sensitive to pollution. Or if the creek, if it's not just pollution, if it's like too warm or if there's some type of chemical issue, they won't survive very long. If we find a lot in a variety of class 1, that means likely it's a healthy creek. We also need to take samples on multiple places, but this is a good sample to look at the spot of the creek. We found a class 2 creature, and it's called a scud. And it's this little guy. It kind of reminds me, what other creature does that remind you of?
Looks like a roly-poly.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a roly-poly in how it's sectioned. So if we look at our key, we can kind of see it's not a shell. This is a class 2 because it can be somewhat tolerant to pollution. So it's not fully tolerant, but it can still last if there's some pollution in the creek. The class 3 are pollution tolerant, so no matter, it seems like depending on the pollution, but they survive, they last. And so examples of pollution tolerant is this aquatic worm. Another example is a leech, is a pollution tolerant. We have seen leeches in our creek, but we didn't catch any today. They like more still pools where they can just hang out. A quick and easy way to kind of calculate the health of our creek by what we find is using this classification sheet or bio index value. And so this is also attached, so you can download this if you want to follow along and to check off the creatures that we found. So we'll start with class 1. The first one says caddisfly larvae, and we actually I don't think I mentioned it earlier, we did find some caddisfly larvae. They're tiny little, they look like little worms. So don't be confused with aquatic worm, but they do have some feet to them. And so we found a caddisfly larva, and these are sometimes just kind of just their own themselves, their bodies, but they also create some shells made out of tiny little stones or tiny little sticks. And I had something, but I can't remember where it is. Ah, here it is. This is an example of a stone. This one is kind of an orientation of a shell, but they like put together tiny little rocks into a shell that they hide in. So they act like they're a part of the creek. So no one eats them. So that's a caddisfly. I found that. Look at this Marcus little gilled snail. I don't think we haven't found a lot if we found one, but no gilled snail. But hellgrammite, did we find a hellgrammite?
Yep.
We did. Mayfly, nymph/larva.
Found a lot of those.
We found a lot of mayfly larvae. We'll just say that's the type we found, so we'll just find one. Riffle beetle, I haven't seen any riffle beetles. They're just little like black, tiny little beetles. Stonefly larva, yeah. Water penny.
Lots of those.
Yes, water penny, sweet. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 times 3. 15. So class 2, I think the only class 2 we found, we found the crayfish. So that is a class 2 as well. Crayfish and scud. So we got 2 times 2, 4 is 4. And then class 3, just an aquatic worm. So just one. That's good. And then we just add them all up. So 15 plus 4, 9 plus 1 is
20.
20.
15 plus 4, 19 plus 1 is 20.
Yes, 20. Okay. So right now from our sampling, we're in the good, so 17 through 21 range. So some days we'll have higher than that, but still, that is a good sample. We have a good sample, good value of our creek. So it's decently healthy. There's other ways to calculate this, but this is just one easy way to calculate the health of a creek. Well, thank you all for joining us on our adventure in water study. This is, like I said, one of my favorites. You always discover new things or new types of things each time. This also makes me think of, so just sitting here by the water, I can kind of see on the surface what's happening. I can see a little bit under the water, but it really wasn't until we as a group kind of entered into the water, kind of dug around, stirred it up a bit, until we found all of this life underneath. And that's just incredible to me. I know my first time when I discovered that these creatures existed, it just blew my mind. And so, and this is just a portion of what we found. There's a lot more macroinvertebrates that you can find. There's also, if we want to look even deeper, even in a few drops of water, there's millions of microscopic creatures that we can discover. So it blows my mind how elaborate God's creation is. And that just reminds me and encourages me just in different aspects of my life to continue to dig deeper and learn more, explore more. And that reminds me also in relationships as well, and people that I'm really close to, and even people in my communities, to continue to enter in with them and have more deeper relationship with them, and more so, not just with others, but also with the Lord. And so that's kind of that example of Christ. As he was with his Father, we need to also enter in with him and go deeper with our Lord. And then also that reaching out to those around us. And so that just reminds me of a passage in Romans 15:5-7. May the God who gives endurance and encouragement give you the same attitude of mind toward each other that Christ Jesus had, so that with one mind and one voice you may glorify God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you, in order to bring praise to God. So I love what this is saying about, so it comes from God who gives us that endurance and that encouragement to have the right attitude to serve him and to love God more, just like Christ did. We can follow that example. But he also talked about loving those around him. And we, even in this time of a lot of uncertainty, and we're very physically distant from people, more so is praying for that encouragement and that endurance. And what does that look like for us to love and reach out to those that we love, that are close to us, but also in need. And so that's just a big reminder for me to seek that in Christ and through God, through his strength, and to act on what he tells me. So thank you. I had a great time out in God's creation, and I'm excited for what I'll learn from you. And if you want to go deeper with this activity, we have a document attached for more learning about this class, about water creatures and wildlife. So if you want to look at that after you look at this video, check that out too.